I think when I was probably 14 or 15, I knew like I was gonna have to do something drastic to change my life, and I felt a lot of patriotism, and I wanted to serve my country because I knew that I could do it, other people couldn't. Uh, so I like immediately out of high school, I was 17 when I graduated. I told my parents, I was like, "You guys can sign the papers, or I'm gonna forge them." Like we're going. I was going. So. My name is Cole Rath. I live in Grand Junction, Colorado. Right now, I own a coffee roasting company and a cafe. We have 3 small family-owned businesses in town. Being in the military and like traveling the world gave me a little bit of a different perspective and allowed me to appreciate like the natural beauty and the liberties that we have in America. Versus like a lot of people who haven't traveled, they don't know like how easily people disappear for being outspoken against the government or something. So living in Colorado is pretty epic. Like we're out here on 40 acres. We've met our neighbors, but we don't really know them. And then it allows us to kind of decompress when we need to. And we're like 45 minutes from the snow. We can go skiing or we can go hiking in the same day. So it's pretty cool. I was born in New York. My family's from up there. So we moved down to Grand Junction. They were hippies. And they drove around on a little school bus. Or not school bus, sorry, like a Volkswagen bus. And then they actually camped in some of the fields close to where we live now when I was a little kid. So it's kind of funny, but their bus broke down here and then they got jobs, and that's how we ended up here. So I think they're responsible adults now, but we went to boot camp. It was in Great Lakes. It was wicked cold. They actually would make us stand outside and hold the little thermoses until they froze, until somebody got frostbite, and then we got new drill instructors. But Great Lakes was pretty cool. Then I went to Gutters Mate A School. Basically to teach you how to work on small arms, and then range instructor school also. So I eventually got stationed in Guam. I volunteered to go with as many deployments as I could at the time, because in my mind, the more deployments I went on, the quicker I would be able to advance. And I had made E5 in about 2 years, so that was a pretty quick track for enlisted guys. And then I was trying to figure out how to get like an early promotion to E6, so I was going everywhere. Anytime they needed somebody, I would deploy. So eventually I was attached to SEAL Team 3 as a bullet counter. I just, like those guys are so dialed in, they're like, "Don't touch my guns." I'm like, "Okay, I won't touch." So you carry their stuff around. I would escort the ammunition to wherever they were forward deployed to. So if they were in like Africa or wherever, it was all piled up in a central location, and I would be the guy that would run it back and forth on the C-130s, which was a cool job, but it was ridiculous the amount of risk that I took, and I didn't even know. So, but long hours are a given. Like you work until the task is accomplished, and a lot of times with limited personnel, you would do whatever you had to do to see it through. So, but yeah, there was always risk, and I think being like a lower level enlisted guy, you're like motivated to take on, like you feel bulletproof. So you're doing like outrageous things, but you have none of the information. Like you don't see the different types of threats that you see, or you're more educated on like the older you get. So we would load up the only blue Ford F-150 in the entire country of Kuwait and drive it to the tarmac and then fly it out to wherever they were forward deployed to. In like the briefest way possible, is I always tell people it sucked good. It sacrificed our free will and like my kids' first words and first steps, so that when I got home, I knew that we want to be a communist country. And that in that service, I think it teaches you a level of fortitude that regular people don't have. Something that one of the team guys said to me when I was probably 20 was that you adapt, improvise, and overcome. And that kind of stuck with me throughout my whole life, because now as like different problems come through, I know that I'm able to be fluid enough to handle pretty much anything. and with the support of a family and different business resources. But I had done a couple back-to-back deployments, and when I made E5 in 2 years, and I got stuck there for 8 years. And the last time I took the E6 exam, 1,300 people took it, everybody passed, and only 0.02%, so 2 people advanced to the next pay grade. So it was basically you were stuck until somebody got out, nobody was moving up. And I kind of felt like I was stagnant, and I was looking for more responsibility. I didn't know what I was missing, and I didn't really know what I had. So I just was looking for an alternate path. I didn't really have an exit strategy. I just kind of, I got out, and after being in the military for so long, I just assumed that I would have a paycheck every 2 weeks, no matter what. I blew through my savings. I had gone to a lot of interviews. People were paying like $8 or $9 an hour for physical security, and that seemed like the only skill set that I had at the time. As a gunner's mate, I was a range instructor, so I knew how to teach people, but I didn't have any civilian certifications. And then I had transitioned to a Master at Arms, which is like MP in the Navy, which where it overlaps, there's a lot of crime and actually happens in the military, but you don't have the post certificate, so the police departments will hire you till you go to a post class. So I was basically starting out with and I had gone to college while I was in the military too, so I almost finished my bachelor's degree. I had 120 college credits, but they were all through different colleges, and nobody while I was in said consolidate that so you can get a degree. And then I finally got out and went to Mesa, and they said it would cover your electives. So I was kind of just starting over, and I was basically just wrecking life. I was still spending money like I was getting a paycheck, and drinking like I was still in. So it was a rough transition to basically I had to bottom out emotionally and financially before I was able to realize I need to make a change in my life. So even though I said I drank a lot, but I always morally and personally, I kept myself, I held myself to a really high standard, and I wasn't able to physically make it through some of the qualification courses. And then I had seen a deterioration in my personal relationships and my family relationships just because of my lifestyle, I think. And I had, sounds corny, but I met my wife, and I decided, this is it. Either I change everything that I was doing before, and I give it one more go, or I'm gonna move to Thailand and be one of the little hut bachelors. So, but which at the time, I was financially I was doing good. I was working in the oil field, but it was a horrible job. You're knee deep in mud, swinging a sledgehammer. When I got out, there was no support structure. I didn't know anybody. I moved back into my parents' house. I didn't have a job. I would say before you get out, you go apply at 100 places and line up a paycheck, so that at least that way it might not be what you want to do, but you can afford groceries while you figure it out. Because nobody in the military, somebody tells you what to do and where to be and how to do it. But once you got into the civilian world, you have to find that purpose for yourself. I actually got lucky, and my mom's an accountant, so she's always telling me how to spend money and how not to spend money, and mostly that I spend too much money. But she had done some book work for a lady who had inherited a coffee roasting company, and she lived in Arizona, and then the other sibling lived in Europe, so they weren't involved in running the company. So I got a phone call one day, and she was like, "Do you want to roast coffee for a living?" And I was like, "I don't even know what that means, but let's check it out." So I went in there, and immediately day one, I saw the employees were stealing, the ratios were off, the profit to income, everything was just out of alignment. And I was like, I think I can make this into some kind of business, and we can make, and everybody likes coffee. So from being in law enforcement, I was kind of burned out on only time somebody calls the police is when they're having a bad day, something's going crazy. So I was looking for something that was financially stable, a little bit recession proof, and then like something in a different industry than the funeral home business, because I didn't want to overlap with the business that we already had. And so roasting coffee seemed like I could have a lot of freedom to do wholesale or retail or like cafes, or there's a lot of different avenues that you can build it into. Day one, like I shadowed a migrant worker who was running the company. He didn't speak English, so I had to have a translator come out and like translate some of the procedures so I could run the roasting equipment. And then I went to a roasting school for about like a week, and it ended up being a different type of roaster. So I just used some of the theory off of it, but it didn't really apply to what I was doing. And then as each like wave of business, like I would dive into it, and then I realized like I didn't know anything about it. So I would have to educate myself. Like, so when I bought the business, it was up behind a peach orchard in the middle of nowhere. And once I bought it, I was like, man, like I can roast coffee, but like I can make all this stuff now. Who do I sell it to? For about 2 years, it was just me. Like I roasted coffee, I made the drinks, like I was the janitor, the marketing guy. I did everything. And then one day I realized like, if I burn out, everything stops. Like I need another guy. So I hired like 2 other people, and it wasn't enough. So once we moved downtown, right now we have about 15 people that work in the store. So it's open for like 144 hours a week. Well, I think from the military, it's just, you never quit. I mean, you see it through, like as a business owner, like, and it parallels to being in the military, you work until the task is accomplished. I don't clock in and out. Like if something needs to be done, you're there until it's finished, from conception to completion. So that is instilled in you in the military. You don't get paid like by the hour. It's all like liberty-based motivation. Yeah. So you work as hard as you can to try to get your free time, and that transfers directly over to being like a business owner, an entrepreneur. Like we routinely work like 6 to 7 days a week. I try to take off on Sundays, but you do whatever you have to do, because if you're not doing it, nobody else will. So you're the force, like the Sisyphus that's pushing that boulder up the mountain, and really you're the one that it's a test of will. So you're trying to forever keep that movement and the momentum growing. My wife shows up one day with like horses, and I was like super surprised. So and I like kind of a city kid, so like I've seen horses, but I didn't know anything about them. So now, about 2 years later, like we ride them every day. It really allows you to disconnect with the chaos of the regular world, and you're just focused on you and the animal. Like I kind of like an office guy now, because I kind of like a roast coffee. It's heavy when I pick up 1 bag, but not when I pick up the little 1-pound bag. So it's nice to just come out here and swing the pickaxe, and I build fences and work on I'm trying to build a legacy for the next generation and the generation after that of our kids. I started doing some community work. I work with an organization called Harmony Acres. They're a nonprofit horse equine therapy group. Because I do own a veteran-owned business, and I am a veteran, and I know how it feels to go to the VA. Good and bad some days, but like I know that there's a lot, like you're a number in there kind of. So I reach out to this organization, and they have a bunch of grants for veterans. And then I get people that come in the coffee shop and the juice place from all spectrum of life. So I'm able to give them a direct resource that they don't have to be referred to. They're able to just go in there, and they get immediate like mental health, or there's trail riding programs for veterans, different kind of community events, and like volunteer work. Like sometimes it just takes, shoveling some horse manure and getting you out of your funk, and you're able to like work through some stuff, and you don't even need to talk to a therapist. You need to relocate and kind of disconnect, so you're able to process stuff. When you first start transitioning out, it's pretty sketchy. Like you don't have a support system, you don't know anybody a lot of times. I would say that you just need to get your groundwork and get a routine going, and start putting in work. Like even if it's at like a Burger King or something, you get your routine and keep working out. And then you start to throw out all those applications to where you really want to go. So you got the funding, and at least a little funding, so you can keep building up yourself. And that kind of rolls the same way into the business world, because without capital, like, you can have the greatest idea in the world, but nobody's going to know about it. So the growth of the business is directly related to the group of people that you can expose it to. It's pretty cool. A lot of days I forget that I own. It sounds funny, but like you work hard in there no matter what. And I think that's just comes from inside of you. But for owning your own business, everything that you put into it, you see it come back out. My favorite coffee is the Bullseye coffee. It's a new blend that we're doing. It's got a little bit of Sumatra, some Mexican, and then a bunch of secret ingredients that make it taste better. I don't know. A perfect Saturday for me would be like just waking up and maybe cooking some of our home bacon and going out and riding the horses and, just spending the day like not worrying about the chaos of the world and just enjoying like the moment.